Welcome to the new lesson where we focus on Article 5 in the Digital Operational Resilience Act, or DORA. The Article 5 is named the ICT Risk Management Framework. So what is Article 5 and why should it matter to you, especially if you are in the IT or financial industry? Let's find out. First, before we go into Article 5, let's quickly remember what DORA is. The Digital Operational Resilience Act aims to standardize ICT risk management across all financial entities in the European Union. This ensures that financial systems are robust enough to withstand, adapt to, and recover from ICT disruptions. Article 5 of DORA deals with ICT risk management. Think of it as the backbone for how a company should approach managing their information and communication technology risks. Why did I call it a cornerstone? Just like you can't build a stable building without a strong skeleton, you can't have effective risk management without a robust framework. The framework sets the tone and direction for how risks are handled within the organization. It ensures that everyone, from top management to operational teams, is on the same page about what needs to be done, how it should be done, and who is responsible for doing it. Then we have roles and responsibilities in this article. So Article 5 of DORA makes it clear that the management body of a financial entity is ultimately responsible for the ICT risk management framework. So they are responsible. At first glance, this might seem like a straightforward point, but there's a lot more to unpack here. So who makes up the management body? Who is in the management body? In any financial entity, the term management body generally refers to the board of directors, executive management, and other key decision makers within the organization. These are the individuals with the authority to make strategic decisions, allocate resources, and set company-wide policies. We are here talking about responsibility, but what does responsibility mean here in this context? Being responsible for the ICT risk management framework doesn't only imply a general oversight role. It means that senior management must be actively engaged in the planning, implementation, and continuous improvement of the framework. In our case, the responsibility includes setting objectives. So this means clearly defining what the ICT risk management framework aims to achieve. What are your objectives of this framework? Then we have resource allocation, ensuring that adequate funds, personnel, and technologies are allocated for effective risk management. Without resources, any project is doomed, and it is important to allocate resources. How they will do this ICT risk management process if they don't have the resources? Then it is policy approval, meaning approving the guidelines, procedures, and policies that make up this framework. Of course, we have also monitoring and review, meaning regularly reviewing the effectiveness of the framework and making necessary adjustments. Every system should be checked and improved if needed. Then we have also accountability, meaning that being answerable for the success or failure of the framework, including legal and regulatory repercussions, meaning they are accountable. Senior management is accountable. So, if you're part of the senior management, the implications are significant. Your decisions and actions, or lack thereof, can make or break the company's ability to manage ICT risks effectively. Failure to assume this role can lead not only to operational hiccups, but also regulatory penalties, loss of reputation, and even legal consequences. I believe you are already familiar with this, but this is the role of senior management. One more thing to consider is that ICT risk management framework should not exist in a vacuum. It needs to be aligned with the organization's overall business objectives and strategies. And who better to ensure this alignment than the management body, who are in a way the custodians of the organization's strategic vision. Because this framework shouldn't be purpose for himself, but the purpose of ICT risk management is to help your business. We also mentioned policies and procedures. So when Article 5 highlights the need for detailed policies and procedures within an ICT risk management framework, it's essentially talking about the rule book or playbook that governs how risks are managed. Let's see what this means. So what are policies? What is the definition of policies? Policies are the overarching principles set by the management body. So overarching principles, they outline what is expected when it comes to managing ICT risks. For example, a policy might state that all identified risks must be assessed and categorized within 48 hours of discovery. So this is a policy. Policies provide the strategic vision and set the boundaries within which procedures operate. So in this example, that all identified risks must be assessed and categorized within 48 hours of discovery, we can see that this is general direction, but this is not procedure. We don't know how and what to do. So while policies provide the what, procedures offer the how. These are the step-by-step instructions that employees must follow to follow the policies, to adhere to policies. If a policy requires risk assessment within 48 hours, the procedure will detail the tools to be used for assessment and the metrics to be considered, and the personnel responsible for the task, so that they will be able to do the process within 48 hours, as it was mentioned in the policy. So, why are they so much important, these policies, procedures? Imagine playing a game of soccer without any rules. It would be chaotic, right? Similarly, without well-defined policies and procedures, your ICT risk management activities would be haphazard and inconsistent, making it difficult to achieve desired outcomes or maintain compliance with regulations like this one, DORA. Yeah? So we need to have some rules. We need to know what we need to do. We need to have defined policies and procedures. So, what are the types of policies and procedures? But here are some examples, like incident response policy. So, this is policy which gives us guidelines on what constitutes an incident and the steps for immediate response, for example. we can have also data protection procedures, where we have detailed workflows for encrypting, backing up, and securing sensitive data, for example. Access control policy that gives rules for who can access what types of information. And also we have here example of audit procedures, meaning checklists, schedules for internal and external audits of the ICT risk management framework. So these are just some examples of policies and procedures. Of course, based on your risk management, risk assessment, you will maybe define some new policies which are needed for your information security system. The importance of having these policies and procedures is not just in their creation, but in their consistent application and adaptability. Because as threats evolve, so should your policies and procedures. Regular reviews and updates are crucial for the success of this process. Also, we have legal and regulatory compliance, because well-documented policies and procedures are often your first line of defense in demonstrating compliance with regulations. You need to have paper, because usually regulators are asking for paper. But the next step of this definitely is to implement it and use it. Continuous application and review. So these documented policies and procedures serve as proof that you have not only identified risks, but also have a structured way of managing them. Incorporating detailed policies and procedures into your ICT risk management framework is not just a good practice, it's a legal requirement as per Article 5 of DORA. So, by doing so, you actually lay down the rules of the game, ensuring that everyone knows their part in maintaining risks effectively. So, risk assessment and mitigation. It is not just about having plans, as I said before, but also continuously assessing the risks and making sure that you have adequate measures to mitigate them. This is a continuous cycle. So when Article 5 talks about risk assessment and mitigation, it's essentially discussing a two-part process. First, understanding your risks, and second, taking action to manage them effectively. This isn't a one-time task, but rather a continuous cycle. So we will talk more about these things in later lessons. So let's consider a hypothetical financial company. Just think about it, what I will say here, they had a detailed ICT risk management framework, but lacked proper documentation. What happened because of it? So they had detailed ICT risk management framework, but lacked proper documentation. They faced significant delays in reacting to an unexpected cyber attack, losing both time and money. Why? Because they lacked proper documentation. They had great system in place, but because of lack of documentation, everyone was not knowledgeable of each step and time frame in which they need to work. So, if you remember what we talked about Article 5, can you see the different pieces of Article 5 coming into play here? Yes? I believe so. So before we leave, I want to ask you a question to think about. This is connected with Article 5 of DORA. So what are the key components that Article 5 asks you to include in your ICT risk management framework? So what are the key components of Article 5? You can listen this lesson from the beginning, or you can read it from DORA, Article 5, and think about what are the key components that Article 5 asks you to include in your ICT risk management framework. Thank you for listening, and see you in the